How's it going, everyone? It's Savi from More SpongeBob. Today is August 31st, 2021, and today we're going to take a look at four disturbances in the middle of the Atlantic and see what are the chances they impact land. But before I begin, make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather records. Make sure to like if you like this video. Make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather records. So let's begin by taking a look at the 5-day tropical weather outlook provided by the National Hurricane Center. And you see that we of course have tropical depression Ida, which has made landfall in Louisiana at 150 miles per hour around 2 days back, and you see that it has weakened the tropical depression and it's expected to bring heavy rain all throughout the East Coast. We do have this other disturbance which has a chance of formation, although it's a low chance, but it's still something we need to monitor in the future. We also have Tropical Storm Kate, which is currently centered in the middle of the Atlantic at this time, and we have most importantly what will likely become Tropical Storm Larry, which has a 90% chance of forming within the next 48 hours. So it's almost inevitable we're gonna see Tropical Storm Larry out of this, and I'd be even more confident to say that we'll likely see Hurricane Larry as this heads further westward. And so let's first take a look at disturbance number one, or what will likely become Tropical Storm Larry, the satellite imagery, and you see that we're seeing a lot of convection on the eastern side. I'd say the center circulation will be located right around this area where most of the convection will be, because of course that's typically where the pressure will be the lowest. And as you can see, it's looking fairly healthy for something that's not considered a tropical depression or tropical storm yet. It looks like a healthy tropical wave. There's a lot of convection going, and you see that there isn't a ton of dry air around it. Let's zoom out a little bit to the water vapor imagery, and you see that it has nice outflow on all sides of this storm, where we do see the outflow clouds on the northern side, the western side, as well as the southern side of this storm, which shows that it's currently in a relatively light wind shear environment throughout just off the coast of Africa, and which is the reason why it has a high chance of development over the next couple hours and will likely become Tropical Storm Larry and potentially Hurricane Larry in the near future. Now let's take a look at what the future holds for this storm when it comes to strength and the path. So first, let's actually talk about the path. So if we were to take a look at what the GFS model is saying, you're going to see that the GFS model wants to really develop this into not only a hurricane, but potentially a major hurricane, because if we continue to move forward with the forecast and taking a look at the relative humidity, it's going to begin in a moist environment, but you see that while there is going to be dry air on the western side, the GFS model sort of expects this storm to be small enough and have a focused area of convection to sort of fend off a lot of this dry air. And typically with smaller storms, it's a lot more difficult for them to entrain dry air, because typically smaller storms don't absorb a lot of air molecules around them. So as a result, it's highly unlikely that it'll entrain much of this stable air, since the circulation is so small and the wind field is so small to absorb dry air from that far out from the center circulation. So the GFS model expects this at least center circulation to be moist enough and small enough to fend off a lot of this dry air. And you see that the GFS model wants to drop this down 965 millibars, which is equivalent to almost a category 3 hurricane right there, right in the main development region of the Atlantic. Thankfully, at this point, it isn't anywhere near land. If we were to continue to move forward in the future, the GFS model maintains its strength for the most part as it moves northward. And this is definitely something we want to see. We want to see the storm move northward, because typically when storms off the coast of Africa come up north this early before it even reaches the Caribbean, typically I'd say it's highly unlikely that it'll keep moving all the way west to impact the United States, as typically that's a rare scenario. Maybe it affects Bermuda, but the United States, it's a bit of a stretch for a storm this far up north and eastward to move all the way west into the United States relative to the main development region. But The only notable exception was, like I said in my last video, Hurricane Florence, which was this far up north and actually did make landfall in the United States. So it's certainly possible. I won't rule out that scenario, but more likely than not, storms this far up north typically go out to sea, and that's what the GFS model is currently forecasting, that we're going to see some sort of trough move through the along with the jet stream move through and pretty much steer this storm out to sea into the open Atlantic, not really affecting much of anyone. So that's definitely that definitely would be the best case scenario, and I'd say currently it's probably the more likely scenario. However, the European is still wanting to take this a bit more west. Now it's still like very far from the United States, but it's fairly close to Bermuda, so Bermuda, I'd say at least stay aware of this tropical cyclone, because because there is that possibility it could move close to you guys. But keep in mind, this is a forecast 10 days out. So although the GFS model wants to steer this out to sea, it's a very long-term forecast, and we can't really say for certain that it's gonna just move northward and move out to sea. Typically, that's what happens, but you know, with the weather, the weather is so unpredictable. You can't really 100% say that with certainty that it's going to move far up northward. So this is at least something to monitor over the next several days. Most likely scenario, like I said, is this moves out northward and out to sea. But with the European model leaning towards a track a bit westward over the next several days, it's at least something to be monitoring at this point for Bermuda especially, and maybe the East Coast, but I'd say don't worry about it too much, since I'd say it'll probably move out to sea most likely. But this should strengthen into a major hurricane. The European model also wants to strengthen this quite a bit. If we were to take a look at the millibar pressure, the European wants to strengthen this too. You see that the European model drops this down to 955 millibars, which is equivalent to category 3, maybe even a category 4 hurricane. So both of the main computer models are leaning towards strengthening this quite a bit, and you see that it's still quite a strong storm as it heads further westward. So this will likely be another major hurricane in the hurricane season. As of right now, it's still too uncertain to say if this will impact land or not. But I'd say we'll eventually see this move northward sometime, maybe around the 120-hour mark, thanks to a weakness in the Bermuda Ridge. Now, taking a look at the sea surface temperatures, because that will determine the strength of the storm in the future, and you see that it's going to move northward into an area where the temperatures will be above 80 degrees. If it moves a little bit earlier, it might go over a cold patch, so maybe that could put a cap to this storm strength, but I'd say most likely it'll be over just warm enough water to continue to strengthen this storm. Now, taking a look at the model intensity guidance, and this is concerning because typically when we take a look at the model intensity guidance, the ensemble member intensity guidance, typically they typically underestimate the storm's strengthening a lot of the times, I notice. And the fact that there's still a bunch of computer models wanting to take this above a category 2 and into a category 3 hurricane is concerning, because if the ensemble members are known for underestimating the storm's strength, then we could potentially see an even stronger hurricane. And let's say this doesn't even affect the East Coast, we still could see huge surf along the East Coast, even if the center circulation doesn't come close to the East Coast. So this is at least something to keep in mind, especially if you're along the coast, because it could maybe bring big waves at East Coast if it comes close enough, but there's still a lot of uncertainty regarding that forecast. But taking a look now at the where the computer models want to take this, and they're all agreeing that this will eventually move northward and move northwestward. The hope is that eventually a trough will steer out to sea, but but it's still too far to say for certain. But now let's take, and here's my track forecast, and you see that I'm gonna take this further northward and into the and further westward, and I expect this to strengthen into 115 mile per hour plus hurricane, which would make it a major hurricane, as all the computer models seem to be leaning towards that area. And I'd say Bermuda, you guys need to at least be aware of this, because it seems like it's going to go almost straight towards your direction if nothing stops it in its way. But there's still a lot of uncertainty, but I'll make sure to update you guys as more updates come out for Tropical Storm Larry. Now taking a look at our next tropical disturbance, we have Tropical Storm Ida, Tropical Depression Ida now, which is centered right around the northern Alabama at this point, and it's expected to bring heavy rain all throughout the northeast. And this is very concerning, because not only is this going to bring heavy rain that the northeast hasn't seen in a long time, but it's going to come only a week after Tropical Storm Henri brought heavy rain throughout New Jersey, New York, and a lot of the northeast. So a lot of the rivers are still elevated from the rain that Tropical Storm Henri brought just a week ago. And to add another tropical cyclone on top of it, or at least the remnants of a tropical cyclone with a ton of rain, that's gonna just add insult to injury throughout the northeast, as it's more likely now we're gonna see flooding out of this, thanks to the elevated water height of the rivers. So that is certainly something in the northeast you need to keep a close eye on. If we were to take a look at the Futurecast radar, so this is how it's looking like right now. We have some thunderstorms moving through Atlanta at this point, and we have a lot of rain currently in Kentucky and Nashville at this time, so watch out over there. But if we were to continue to move forward, it's gonna get some help from this trough moving through, where there's gonna be cold air behind this trough, and it's gonna create an unstable environment throughout this area right around the Appalachian Mountain range, and that should enhance the rainfall of the remnants of Tropical Storm Ida, and it should create just a very heavy rain threat. As you see right around Wednesday night, the heaviest rain will fall throughout New Jersey, eastern Pennsylvania, and this rain is very heavy, this is certainly capable of producing flash flooding, as flash flooding could be a major issue for a lot of the East Coast for this week. So this is something you guys throughout the Northeast certainly need to keep a close eye on. If we were to take a look at what the GFS model is saying, you're going to see that GFS model wants to bring the heavy rain throughout New Jersey, Pennsylvania, where we do see the yellows and the reds just north of the low pressure system, and it's going to be enhanced by these northwesterly winds are going to bring the cold air into the center circulation, and that should create an unstable environment around this storm to enhance the convection, as baroclinic influences are going to help enhance the rainfall for the storm. So that's definitely a major concern, and it's not going to move that fast either, where it's going to move relatively slow for a tropical cyclone this far up north. So this is something we need to certainly be concerned about all throughout the Northeast, especially since Tropical Storm Henri brought a lot of rain to you guys just a week earlier, and the rivers are probably elevated from the river levels are probably elevated from that storm. Now, take a look at the rainfall forecast over the next several days. You're going to see that over the next 5 days, close to 7 inches of rain is expected throughout southern Pennsylvania and around the Mason-Dixon line of Maryland and Pennsylvania, which is an insane amount of rain, especially for the Northeast, because the Northeast typically doesn't see this much rain this fast. And you see this extends to New York City, where 4 to 6 inches of rain should be expected, as this is going to be a lot of rain. And I'd say flooding is likely all throughout the Northeast from the remnants of Tropical Storm Ida. So this is certainly something you guys want to pay close attention to and continue to monitor, especially if you live near a flood zone. You need to prepare, because flooding, I'd say, is likely from this storm by the amount of rain we're going to see. Now, taking a look at the risk of flash flooding, you see that there's a moderate chance, which is a large area. This extends to Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Maryland, West Virginia, Virginia. We also have Kentucky involved, and even Tennessee and Georgia is involved under a flash flood risk, a moderate flash flood risk. So make sure to pay attention to the warnings that the National Weather Service issues, as there's a possibility you could receive a flash flood warning, and you need to react quickly during those and not go outside during potentially life-threatening floods like that. Now, taking a look at what else is in the tropical Atlantic, we have Tropical Depression Kate, but it's meandering in the middle of the Atlantic, and it's not really expected to do much of anything in the middle of the Atlantic, as it's expected to weaken. As you see that it really becomes nothing, as there's going to be too much wind shear over this storm, and it's just going to die out in the middle of the Atlantic, so nothing to worry about there. And we do have a slight possibility of tropical cyclone development. However, the thing that's going to inhibit this this potential low pressure system is the fact that it's going to be very close to land. So I'd say tropical cyclone development is unlikely just off the coast of Central America, so that not much to worry about there. But yeah, guys, I guess that's it for this video. I thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather calls. Make sure to like if you like this video. Make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather calls. And I hope you guys have a good day.